Tagalis pagwaig am Yegonsio ni E. So hello everyone, I'm Yegonsi. Today's video lesson is gonna cover the A, C, and U stem subjective verb changes. So this is kind of what we call Unit 3. We go over verb changes. Sometimes we call them word changes. And so this unit is going to cover very simple subjective verb changes for the A, C, and U stems. We also call this the three races of man unit. And so it actually, each verb, we do one for the A stem, we do one for the C stem, we do one for the U stem. Each verb describes a different group of people. And so that's why we call it three races of man. And so also too, one thing to note on this slide is that these are strictly subjective words or verbs. Okay, so these verbs are only going to use the subjective pronouns. And the main objective of this video is to get you familiar with how pronouns are attached or affixed to a verb or a root. Okay, so let us get into our lesson. So learners should know these are our target objectives for every learner. The subjective pronouns of the A, C, and the U stems. So we talked about those in the last few videos. Know where the pronouns are placed on root words or root verbs for each of the three races of man. Know each change for each the A, C, and the U stem subjective words or verbs. And also know the associated meanings of the three races of man, words or verbs for the A, C, and U stems with the correct pronouns, and be able to speak the associated sounds of each verb or word, including correctly identifying punctuation in each associated word for the three races of man. Okay, so these are words, but just know that we're talking about verbs linguistically. And so sometimes I use that term interchangeably, but I just want you to have that as a little reference in your mind. So just to give you an idea of where we're going. So this is the first 6-month curriculum. This is a section in the first 6-month curriculum of the Oneida Language Department. So this is like the third section, or kind of what we call a Unit 3. It's word or verb changes for the A, C, and the U stem. We call it the three races of man. These are subjective verbs only. After this section, we're going to talk about greetings and counting. And then we're going to talk about nouns, different types of nouns, colors, and animals. And then the following sections come from the second curriculum book. And those are follow-up units to this booklet. We call that units 6 through 8. We introduce new stems, the remaining 4 stems. We also introduce complex verb changes. Well, they're simple verb changes, but they're more complex than what we're talking about in this video, and also good and bad noun changes. Okay, so this is basically a building block. It's building you a foundation of fundamental skills in the language. So I kind of like to think about it as like a staircase you're learning. So if you jump from the bottom stairs to the top stairs, that's really hard. But if you take it one step at a time and go slowly, you can make it to the top. Okay, so, and you can also go fast too. It's all dependent on how much work you put into it. So just be aware, it's, baby steps. It's one step at a time, but these are building blocks to get you to the next step. Okay, so just a good frame of reference for your learning. Same thing here. Sometimes we understand that generally 5 years is going to build you a solid level of proficiency, but it can be much less than 5 years too. So it's all dependent on how much time and effort you put into it. So if you do it a lot every day, it's going to take you less than 5 years to build at least a solid level of proficiency. So we are still kind of in the works of building proficiency standards for our second language acquisition learners, but we do have oral assessments established to review that. So right now, as a new learner, you're kind of in year 1 here. And so you've covered a few different great fundamental aspects of our language. So I mentioned you can kind of think about it as a staircase, but you could also think about it like perhaps like a pyramid. You need to have a really solid foundation to know and understand what we're talking about. And in order to, understand more complex ideas farther up here. Okay, so this is an old sheet we used to use in our curriculum books. And this book or this chart gives you a little bit of a map or an infograph of how fluency or proficiency is established. So it is definitely a lifelong learning journey. Building on a language or solid proficiency can take 1 to 5 years. It can take about 3 to 5 years within that time frame to establish talking or oral speaking speakership. And so really those first few years, you're really building a foundation. You want to have tools and skills that understand the sounds, the changes of our words and verbs. You want to have audio and written stories. You want to build your proficiency and your pronunciation. You want to have listening and recognizing words and sounds, and then move into the speech component. So that is just a good overview. It's like a good little roadmap for what your learning is. And just be mindful, like everyone has a different journey too. Some people want, just more of introductory language. Some people want more proficiency. And so language, there's multiple destinations to language, and the destination to language can all be different. It is not always the same destination, and that is okay. Okay, so sometimes we kind of get confused, or we misinterpret that it's one path to the language. Not true. There's multiple paths that can coexist, that work for different people, for different groups of people at the same time. All are needed and all are important. And those destinations to language can all be different. There's multiple destinations to language. It's all dependent on your needs and what you want. So there is a lot of ways to do that. Okay, so just FYI, my little TED Talk sections of these videos. So anyway, so why did we learn the pronouns first? We spent a great deal of time learning the pronouns because they are the most basic elements of the language. And we learn them first so that we can build on that foundation and properly use the language in a functional manner. Building the foundation is key. Just how an atom is the simplest part of all living things, we learn sounds, pronouns, and stems because that is the most basic and most important component of our language. And we just build and work our way up from there. All right. Like I said, it's just building blocks. So our first verbs, yay. The first words or verbs we will learn in the language are strictly subjective. So they're only going to use subjective pronouns. Is this like that for all verbs? No, absolutely not. We only chose these verbs specifically so that you can take a real gradual approach, an easy approach, and break it down into bite-sized pieces so you can understand how pronouns are used with verbs and how verbs can be conjugated, and understanding the stem usage with pronouns and identifying roots. So that is why this section is set up in that way. But later on, there's going to be many, many changes, and there's going to be many more conjugations. Okay, so strictly just focus on the patterns and how pronouns are attached to root verbs. Okay, so like I said, these are strictly subjective verbs, meaning they only utilize the subjective side of the A, C, and U stems. These roots, only these roots, 3 of them, they don't have an objective side. Okay, but just be mindful, every other verb basically in our language, they do. Okay, these are real simple verbs. That's what I would like to call them. Very, very simple. Get you familiar with how verb conjugations go. So the three root words or verbs and changes we will learn about are the words for the 3 races of man that we have in our language. Luckily there's one in the A stem, there's one in the C stem and the U stem. So we just use them. They're strictly for learning purposes so that you can get used to how these words change or are conjugated. So I might say that too. When I say conjugated, it just means how the verb changes. Okay, it's just more of a linguistical term. And when you're talking about language, grammatical aspects of the language. So it's just going to get you used to how the verbs change and function in our language. They're not to be used for discriminatory purposes. This is just strictly for educational purposes. Okay, so just FYI. And let's talk about our first one. Okay, so a stem, subjective verb or word. Let's look at this. You can see in the box in the middle, it says zloon. Okay, so we learned the sound practice. So remember I mentioned in previous videos, this dash means something is going to go there. These roots are not used by themselves. Okay, so this is a root or a verb. They're not used by themselves. Generally, when you look them up in the dictionary, they're going to have this dash. That means something is going to go there. That generally means the pronoun. Okay. Oftentimes, roots also have a dash here. It means there's an ending. But remember, I said these are only subjective verbs, so they only change subjectively. So that's why this doesn't have it. But you don't have to worry about that. So the meaning of this verb means to be white or Caucasian. Okay. So when we talk about pronunciation, zloon. Zloony is the full root. So when you look at these questions, what letters are in this root? What letter does this root start with? Where do the pronouns go? Oh, what is this whispered ending? Remember, I think we talked about this in the sound practice. Another grammatical or punctuation aspect of our language is this little dash. So, it's an underlined part of our word. So this underlined part of our word is whispered. It means it's either literally whispered or not spoken. So the old way is whispered. Kind of a more contemporary approach in pronunciation is just that it's not said. So I might say zloon or zloon, so you can hear the whispered ending. That underlined part means that it's the end of a thought or it's the end of a sentence. Okay, so we don't actually use like periods to end our sentences in our language. The actual approach is this whispered ending. So orally, you would know someone is done with that statement or sentence when they're speaking it is whenever there's that whispered ending right at the end. Okay, and when it's written too, it's the same thing. It's that underlined part. So yes, we do have a transcribed language now, but there are aspects of our language that are still present even in the written documentation of our language. So just FYI, you don't have to worry too much about it right now. If you say it all the way through, it's fine. If you practice with the whispered ending, that's fine. But eventually, when you work towards speakership and pronunciation, just keep that in mind and begin to incorporate that into your learning. So one thing that I guess for me as a teacher, I always just model the pronunciation. And so just work on being mindful of the ways in which it's used. So a few other things here. When we're looking at the questions, what you notice about this root word. So I asked these questions before we even go over the changes because I want you to be a really critical thinker and speaker in our language. And when you have those skills, of being a critical thinker and speaker, you know all these real small important aspects of our language, and you can work front to back, side to side. You can translate from Oneida to English to Oneida, and you develop really, really strong and sharp skills in our language. So that's why. So we could just talk about and say Zloon is to be white or Caucasian, but I want you to know more about this word than just that. So we know that it starts with an A. When we talked about the A stem pronouns, roots that start with an A are automatically A stem. Okay. There's a glottal in here. In the sound practice, we said that that's a quick stop or a break. Zloon, there's a little bit of a drag here. And then obviously this whispered ending, so it's not spoken or said. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Let's talk about what we see. So I mentioned a few things already. We know that this root word starts with an A, automatically makes it the A stem. The dash indicates that something is going to be placed at the beginning of the root, aka the pronoun. There's a glottal. It just means that that's a stop and a stop and a break in the word zloon. Okay, you can hear it. The drag, it's a lengthened sound. Zloon. You can hear the drag of that portion of the word. There's an accent. It just means it's a stressed syllable. The underlined portion is a whispered ending. Those whispered endings are whispered. They're not spoken. When the word is being said by itself. Okay, so I forgot to mention that. So the whispered ending can indicate the end of a thought or a sentence, but when the word is by itself, you don't say that ending. Okay, that is the end. Okay, but if something is after it and you wanted to say something beyond like the end of that word, then there is no whispered ending, okay, because that's not the end of the thought or the sentence. So the more you get familiar with that concept, the easier it becomes, okay? So the second two bullets here, it says when the word is used in a sentence or something follows the word, then the whispered ending or underlined portion is spoken, okay? But generally, if it's used in a sentence or something is following it, there's just no whispered ending. You just say the whole word. So underlined portions of words usually have 1 to 2, sometimes 3 letters underlined. It depends on the word, but 1 to 2 generally. Depending on the word, sometimes the entire underlined portion will be whispered or not said. And sometimes only the last letter will be whispered, even if 2 letters are underlined. So gazlun or gazluni, you can see that it's just the I or the NI that are underlined, but it's still the same word. And both are correct and pronounced the same way. So different speakers pronounce it differently too. You might hear an audio and they might say it one way, then you might hear another one and say it another way. They're both correct. Okay. So correct things, that's another great aspect of this language, and just the worldview of our language and culture in general is that there can be multiple correct things that can coexist at the exact same time. Okay. So one speaker who says it this way, that's totally true and correct. And another speaker might say it another way. In old recordings, that's totally correct and true also. So sometimes our mind gets twisted up and we think that it can only be one or the other, but that's just a binary way of thinking that is reflective of a Western philosophical and colonized mindset. Okay. So the other part of my TED Talk here. So Oneida is not like that. Many things can coexist and be true at the exact same time. Same thing with our words, same thing with our pronunciation. All right. So I'll move on. There is an S in the word. Just remember, S's make a Z sound in our language. And so they do sometimes make an S sound though too. So just be mindful of the pronunciation. If you're never sure, just listen to an audio or this video. I'll say it in here too. But remember, there's more than one pronunciation too, especially those S's. They can go back and forth sometimes. It all is dependent on the word too. So in this case, they can either make an S or a Z sound. Like I mentioned, I generally say it with a Z sound. So I usually speak it with a Z sound, but you'll hear an S sound sometimes in audios. And lots of times words can go either way for both sounds or ways to pronounce it. Just depends on the word, just depends on the speaker. So remember, swale means you all remember. The A, C, O, N, U stem pronouns are not used alone. Okay, so we learn those pronouns, but they're never used alone. These roots, azlun, it's not used alone. They come together, and that's how our words and our language exist. Okay, so remember, pronouns are prefixes. It means that they go on the beginning of a root word. The root words are not used alone. Pronouns and root words are used together. So why do we learn them? Because we need to know how to create words. We need to know how to create verbs. We need to know how to create word changes, verb changes, so we can also speak and correctly identify the subject of a word and know the meaning of a verb and what we're talking about. We are building the blocks. We're creating building blocks in our minds in speaking. So that's what this is all about. So our A stem subjective pronouns, remember I said that this is only a subjective word. A stem subjective pronouns review. Meaning chart is already here. I'm not going to go over that. We've been over that many times. You can read them on the chart here, but the pronouns I'll go over again. It's ga, za, la, you, wa, dia, ja, ya, gia, yagya, dwa, swa, lu, gu, yagwa. Great. Okay, so again, review, same thing. I know I say this a lot. Stem pronouns are prefixes. It means that they go on the beginning or the front of a root or a verb. So this is how the word actually exists. So I want to show you this, how it really would look, but I will break it down and color code it shortly. I just want to present this to you initially. So azlun, again, is our root, strictly subjective verb. I always put the root up here in the meaning so you see it. So our changes are I will say the pronunciation. The first one, only the first one, I say it all the way through and then the whispered ending. The rest of them, I say only with the whispered ending. So this chart, I'm going to go over pronunciation and I'm going to say it and I want you to repeat it. Okay. Again, the first one, I'm going to go over twice. One is the full word. The second one is the word with the whispered ending. All of the remaining ones will be the whispered ending. Okay. So I'll say it. You repeat it on your end. So gazluni. Gazlun, Zazlun, Lazlun, Yuzlun, Wazlun, Diazlun, Jazlun, Yazlun, Giazlun, Yagyazlun, Dwazlun, Swazlun, Luzlun, Guzlun, Yagwazlun. All right. So those are our changes or conjugations for ace, this A stem verb to be Caucasian or white. So let's talk about this a little bit more now. Okay. So move my little screen up here so you can see the title. Sorry, sometimes I don't move the camera so you can't see exactly what it is, but hopefully you can. Okay. So our words, remember I mentioned in previous videos that our verbs represent an entire sentence. That's what this is. So gazluni means I'm white or Caucasian. Zatzlun means you are white or Caucasian. Latzlun, he is white. Yutzlun, she is white. Watzlun, she or it is white or Caucasian. Diatzlun, me and you, we are white. Jatzlun, you two are white or Caucasian. Yatzlun, they are white or Caucasian. Yatzlun, the two females, they are white or Caucasian. So obviously you could say the two males or the two females are white or Caucasian, but when you start talking about verbs, you kind of don't always say that. You might just say they are white or Caucasian, okay? But know that when we're talking about yazlun or gyazlun, this ya or gia, that's talking about the two males or mixed group or two females, strictly females, okay? So you kind of like shorten the meaning a little bit, just FYI. It's the same thing. We know who we're talking about. Okay, so the one after that, Yagyazlun, me and this other person, we are white. Same thing there. Me and someone are white, but it might shorten to we are white, but you know that when we're talking about me and this other person, that is a we exclusive because you are not included in that, okay? However, if I said Dwazlun, all of us are white or Caucasian, that is a we also, we are all white, but it's a we inclusive, me, you, everyone is included in that, okay? So there's different interpretations of we in our language. One is inclusive, like in dwa, and one is exclusive, like yagwa. Same thing here, dia, inclusive, yagya, me, exclusive. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's more like advanced, developed levels of understanding for the meanings. Okay, Swazloon, you are all white or Caucasian. Luzloon, they are white or Caucasian. Guzloon, the females, they are white or Caucasian. Yagwatzloon, they are me and these other people, me and these two or more others are white or Caucasian. We are. Okay, so this is the main thing I want you to look at. Okay, this is like the whole point, I guess you could say, of this video is understanding how the pronouns are attached to the verb. Okay, so zlun is our root. Remember, something goes here in this dash. What is going to go there? It's the pronoun. But there's a few concepts I want you to learn about this. Seems really easy. It is really easy. Don't think about it too much. But if you're understanding, because this is how my brain works, is I want to understand how like things are put together and the parts and pieces of things. So it just helps me to process what I'm learning. So zlun, you can see the pronoun. I wanted to highlight or color code the pronoun so you see it. Ga, K-A, that's the pronoun, okay? But where's the A? I'll talk about that in a second. It's in the pronoun, but sometimes when you get pronouns like Y, U, okay, so that's the pronoun. Where is the A in the root? Let's talk about that. That's what I want you to look at here, okay? Because this is going to happen in multiple stems, and so just we'll get into that shortly. Okay, but no, this is what I want you to see. Ga, za, la, you, wa, bia, ja, ya, gya, yagya. All prefixes, they go on the front or the beginning of the verb, and you can see them where they are at using this color code system. Okay, so what is the rule? How are they attached? This is what I want to talk about. Again, it's not necessarily a rule. It's more like a rule of thumb, I guess you could say. In vowel stems, which is the A stem, okay, the stem pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter of the matching stem root word, okay? The pronoun, which would be ga, is going to replace the stem letter, the first letter, which is the letter that indicates the stem of the root, okay? So I'll show you that visually so you know what I'm talking about. So this includes the A stem, the U stem, and the O stem. This later includes the E, the I, and the caret stems, and depending on the stem or the verb, sometimes the fake E, depending. But sometimes a fake E operates like a C stem. So don't worry about that right now. But all vowel stems, okay? So this does not include the C stem. So when I talk about the C stems shortly, this is different. There's a different rule for the C stem. Okay, so be aware of ending changes later on. There is, right now, we're just focusing on pronouns, but once you learn pronouns, then we're going to learn tenses. And there's also a prefix to the pronoun on a tense, and there's also an ending. Okay, so it's just baby steps right now. Stem pronouns must match the same stem root word. So you have to use A stem pronouns for an A stem root word. You can't use C stem pronouns on an A stem root word. It's not how it works, okay? It's got to match, okay? And that's just how our language functions and how it works. So you can really understand your level of understanding of a language if you know those types of rules, I guess you could say. And speakers naturally have those skills. And so as second language learners, we want to develop those skills in our minds and develop that skill. Okay, so just a quick note. I think I mentioned this. Stem pronouns must match the same stem root word. So for example, A stem pronouns only go with A stem root words. Okay, so always got to match. Whenever you know what the stem of a verb is when you look at the first letter, and you got to use those pronouns. All right, so a little closer look at how pronouns function with root words or verbs. Okay, so you will make changes for every single pronoun in the A stem subjective chart with the root of azlun. The rule, remember I said this rule, which was, this way. The stem pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter of the matching stem root word. What does that mean? Ga. Let's just talk about me. Ga is a stem subjective pronoun for me. Okay, so this is the conjugation. This is literally how we're conjugating the verb. You take ga because you want to say I'm white or Caucasian, right? And you want to use azlun. Okay, so it's going to make gazlun, I'm white or Caucasian, but remember the rule that I mentioned, which was the stem pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter. Okay, so beginning vowel letter, oops, sorry, my bad. The beginning vowel letter of the root is A. Let's look at this breakdown a little bit more. Here's me, pronoun for me. Here is azlun. Ga replaces the A. So let me see if I can grab my little pen here because I want you to visually see this. This is going to make more sense. Let me see if I can grab my little drawing thing here. Here it is. Okay, so here is our pronoun, ga for me. This pronoun replaces this letter, A. Okay, so A is goodbye, and it is simply now gazlun. Okay, that is what we have. The A in the root is replaced by whatever pronoun you are using for the A stem. Okay, the A in the pronoun and the A in the root word is never doubled. It is not an AA. You can think about it as a shared A or the same A, but that's not necessarily true because when you come to changes like if you wanted to say she is white or Caucasian, let's do another one. This might make more sense here. Okay, so you is a younger she for the A stem. You want to add it with your root, which is zloon. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly try to write this here so you can see it. Okay, so YU is the pronoun. You're going to take this. It's going to replace the A right here. This A is no longer. Okay, so now we end up with our she is white or Caucasian. This is our conjugation. You zloon. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. I just want you to know that it's not like it disappears. It's just replaced. Okay. That's what that dash is. That dash is the pronoun. And so is the A. The A is a part of that in the root. Okay. So just know the pronoun. This is the basic thing I want you to learn. The pronoun replaces, here's the rule. The pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter in the matching stem root word. Pronoun replaces, here's our ga, the beginning vowel letter. It replaces this. And now it's ga zloon. Okay? So that's how you conjugate. That's a little bit more of an in-depth analysis or an in-depth understanding of this. Okay? So let's move on to a closer look at how pronouns function with our root verbs. Okay, so I actually already did this one, but I'll just review it again. So the rule, a pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter in the matching stem root word. So therefore, YU, which is you, it's the A stem subjective pronoun for her, plus zloon. That, remember, I'll do it again here. The YU, whoa, sorry, my bad. Back it up. Okay. So YU pronoun is going to replace this A, and it's zloon. That, and then it just means she's white or Caucasian. Okay. So YU replaces the A, and that's how you get the conjugation. Okay, so this is just how our language functions. Usually the vowel letter of that stem will be reflected. It will be reflected in most of the pronouns, but not all the pronouns. So stems are characterized mostly by the same vowel letters of the stem. So just FYI, just keep that in mind. You don't have to think about it too much, even though that was a detailed description of that rule, but it's just there so that you have an understanding. Okay. If it's still a little confusing, don't worry about it. Just keep practicing. Okay. It will come to you eventually. So that is a little bit more about our rule for vowel stems. Okay. So we learned our changes here for zloon. Again, they were got zloon or got zloony is the full word. Zat zloon, lot zloon, yut zloon, wat zloon, biat zloon, jat zloon, yat zloon, gyat zloon, yagyat zloon, dwat zloon, swat zloon, boot zloon, goot zloon, and yagwat zloon. Okay, so that was one of them. We have 2 more to go. So let's we'll keep moving on. Let's look at our next one. We are going to talk about another verb. This one is hunji. Hunji. It means to be African American. So look at these questions on the screen. What punctuation do you see? What sounds do the letters make? What stem is this? Where do their pronouns go? What letters are in the root? What is the meaning? It means to be Black or African American. Okay. So remember the dash, that something's going to go there. What is the first letter of the root? That's going to indicate our stem to us. So this little owl, he's saying, means yes. Well, Katie go laying down. It means yes, I understand. Remember, TSY or sometimes TSI in our language makes a J sound. So that's why it sounds like hunji. All right, let's talk about what we see here. So observations, this root word starts with an H. and that is a consonant. That means it's the C stem, okay? Root words that start with any of the consonants that you see on the screen, they are automatically C stem. The dash in the root indicates that something is going to be replaced or placed, sorry, something is going to be placed at the beginning of a root, which will be the pronoun. There's a glottal stop in this. It means that it is a stop or a break. There's also a drag. It's just a lengthened sound. These are strictly for pronunciation purposes. So lots of times with drags, vowels that are before the drag will be spoken with sometimes with a hidden N sound. So you might, when I say hunji, you kind of hear like a N in there. Sometimes that's like kind of a natural pronunciation when you have drags, is there's a little bit of an N sound. It's not in the root. It's just part of the pronunciation. So it's just how our language functions. The more you listen to stories and stuff, you'll just hear that. So you'll hear this when I speak the C stem word verb conjugations. There is an accent in this root. It's a stressed syllable. The letter combination of TSI in the root word, a TS something or a TSY or a TSI, that can make a J sound in our language. Sometimes it can make a ch, a CH, but in this case, it's a J sound. Okay, so we did talk about that in the sound practice. TSYA is a J sound. TSHYA is a ch, a CH sound, but usually a TS something is either going to make a J or a ch sound. So they kind of interchangeable. They don't really have a pattern, but it depends on the word or phrase. Okay, so be more mindful of the pronunciation of those to understand which one it is for combinations with TS. Okay, so it just depends on the word or phrase. Be prepared for both pronunciations. The more flexible you are with the language, the easier it comes to you too. So sometimes you like want to get, our brains are sometimes like want to be fixed to understanding things, and sometimes when we just like kind of let it go, that's when the understanding comes to us, or it becomes easier for us. So just keep that in mind. It's just like a little technique for learning language. So TS something is a special case of unique sounds that change depending on the word or phrase. So just FYI, in this case, it's a J sound. All right, so remember that A, C, O, and U stem pronouns are not used alone. These pronouns that we're going to talk about never used alone. They're always used with the verb. The root words are not used alone. So hunji is not used alone. It's used with the pronouns. So those two pronouns and the verb or root, they're used together. Why do we learn them? So we can create words or verbs. We can understand how verbs change or conjugate, and we can correctly identify the subject and the meaning of a word or verb. Okay, so remember, C-stem pronouns, I'm not going to go over the meanings. Those are always consistent. That's a standard meaning chart we have. But the pronouns for the C-stem were K, S, La, Ye, Ga, Ni, Sni, Ni, Gni, Yagni, Dwa, Swa, Ladi, Gudi, Yagwa. Okay, so stem pronouns are prefixes. It means that they go on the beginning of a root or a verb. So here is our changes. These are our changes for hunji. It's a C-stem verb, so we have to use C-stem subjective pronouns. Okay, so the changes are kunji. I'll say it. I'll have you repeat it. Kunji, sunji, la hunji, ye hunji, ga hunji, ni hunji, sni hunji, ni hunji, gni hunji, yagni hunji, dwa hunji, swa hunji, ludi hunji, Gudi hunji, yagwa hunji. All right, those are our changes. Notice there's no whispered ending here. Sometimes verbs, they don't have them, so it just depends. And also too, notice for pronunciation, these first two, KH, back in the sound practice, hard K sound, SH, S sound. Okay, so that's why it's kunji. So let's talk about the meanings here. So hunji is to be Black or African American, is a C-stem root, C-stem subjective pronouns. So kunji means I'm Black or African American. Sunji, you are Black or African American. La hunji, he is Black or African American. Ye hunji, she is. Ga hunji, an older she or it is. I'll just, the meaning, so I'll just say it like that. Sorry, let me move my little screen here so you can see the one in the corner. Ni hunji, me and you are Black or African American. Sni hunji, you two are Black or African American. Ni hunji, they are African American, the two males. So that's just more detail to the meanings of that. Gni hunji, they are African American. Yagni hunji, me and someone, or we are African American, but it's not you. Remember, it's a we exclusive. Dwa hunji, all of us are Black or African American. Swa hunji, Ladi hunji, Goody hunji, and Yagwa hunji. Okay, so the meanings are all on there. Hopefully you're getting more familiar with this. This is, you can understand why we learn the pronouns and why we have a standard for our meaning chart so that we can learn more. Okay, so here's our pronouns. They are all color-coded in red, so I want you to see them. Remember, they go in the beginning. Kunji, sunji, la hunji, ye hunji, ga hunji. That's the first column. So you see k, s, la, ye, ga, and all of the other pronouns in the second and third columns. Okay, so that's pretty easy. So when we talk about this, really the only thing that's changing is the pronoun. Nothing else is changing. So this is really easy for the most part. This is why the pronouns are so important, because even though this is 15 different words and 15 different meanings, they're really simple changes, all because the root stays the same. You're just changing the pronoun to change or make a different verb or a different verb conjugation. Okay, so that's all it really is. You're just changing the pronouns. That's it. So pretty easy. But let's talk about, there's a different rule for the C stem. It's even easier. It's so easy. So in vowel stems, this is what we talked about for the last word, atzlun, which is a stem. The stem pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter of the matching stem root word. That includes the A, U, and O stems. The later stems also that we'll talk about in later videos. But right now, this is what I want you to know. It does not include the C stem. Be aware that sometimes there's endings later on in verb changes too. Don't worry about that right now. But stem pronouns always need to match the same stem root word. So if the root that we're talking about is hunji, it's a C stem, we have to use C stem pronoun. Okay, that's all that means. What's the rule for the C stem? The rule is, well, the vowel stem does not apply, okay, to the C stem, because the C stem is a consonant stem, which means that it's not a vowel and it follows its own unique pattern. The pattern is that the pronouns for the C stem, only C stem verbs, are added to the beginning consonant letter of the C stem root word or verb. So they are not replaced, they are added on. It's different, okay? Nothing goes anywhere. You just add your pronoun right to the beginning. Okay, so that's even easier. Okay, let's talk about this one. So a closer look at how pronouns function with our root verbs or words for the C stem. You will make changes for every single pronoun in the C stem subjective chart for the root of hunji. So this is the breakdown. This is like the literal equation for making a verb conjugation. So K is me. That's a C stem subjective pronoun for me, plus your root verb hunji, which is means to be African American. You get kunji. Okay, so let me do my little drawing here. K is me. Okay, you want to say I'm African American or Black. All you do is add it. There's no replacing. You just add it right where this dash is. Just slap it right on there. It's right at the beginning. So then that's how you get kunji. Okay, so the C stem pronoun is simply added onto the beginning letter of the C stem root word. That's it. C stem rule, pronouns are added to the beginning consonant letter of the C stem root word. Okay, so that is pretty easy. Let's get more into a little bit more. Just a quick review. It's kunji, sunji, la hunji, ye hunji, ga hunji, ni hunji, sni hunji, ni hunji, gni hunji, yagni hunji, dwa hunji, swa hunji, ladi hunji, goody hunji, yagwa hunji. All right. Okay, so that's our word. That's our C stem word. So we did A stem verb, atzlun. We did C stem word or verb, hunji. And now we're going to do the last one, which is our U stem verb, which is ungwehu. Okay, so that is describing who we are. And so let's talk about these questions. Let's talk about observations of this verb or this word here. All right. So what do you notice about this root? What is the meaning? What letters are in the root? What does the root What letter does this root start with? Where do the pronouns go? What is the whispered ending? Does it have a whispered ending? What sounds does this root make? Okay, so let's talk about that. So this word or verb is ungwehu. Ungwehu. It means to be Oneida, or you can loosely say like Native American. I'll give you a little bit more of a background, actually. Verbs usually have even a deeper meaning than kind of like our English translation. So the English translation means a little bit more about Oneida, but there is always a deeper meaning that's reflected in the roots. It's like old ways, older translations. Not to say that they're lost, there's more depth to a word than just an English translation. So just keep that in mind. So I will briefly talk about that with you. Ongwe. So ongwe and roots can actually be broken up even smaller sometimes too, like this one. So even though ongwe hue or ongwe hu, that's the verb with the whispered ending, or ungwe hue, that's the full word. Even though that can be used as to be Oneida, it can be broken down even smaller. So this part, ungwe means person or human. Okay. Uwe, the ending, uwe means to be like original. We have a word, it's uwe is like an ending for things. So this word for shoe is at or ata. Sometimes we say ata uwe means moccasins, original shoes. Okay, that's a way how we say it. Similar thing here. Okay, so ungwe means person or people or human. Uwe means like original. So it literally means original human or person. I think original, yeah. So original person or human. So that's what you are literally saying. It's a deeper meaning to ungwe hue. I am an original person, or I am an original human, or like what we would say now is I'm Oneida. Okay, so just all it is FYI. The more you know, the cooler it is. It's just more, it's even more just more depth, but more historical context too. So just keep that in mind. But right now we're just going to use a meaning of, for learning purposes, to be Oneida, or loosely you could say Native American. So let's get into this more details about this verb. So it's a U stem subjective verb. Okay, so let's talk about this here. So observations. The root word starts with a U. Ungwehu starts with a U, so that means it's going to be the U stem. The dash in the root indicates that something will be placed on there, which is going to be the pronoun. There's a drag in there. That's your lengthened sound. There's an accent. It's just like a stress syllable. Ungwe, hue. So when you say it, there's kind of like an inflection in your voice. I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. That's just practice. Pronunciation practice helps with that. So there's an underlined portion of the root. That means that that's a whispered ending. So whispered endings are whispered or not spoken when the word is by itself. Okay. But if it's used in a sentence or something follows the word, then that whispered ending is spoken, which is that underlined portion. And it also means that there is no whispered ending if something is after it. Okay. You just say the whole word. So underlined portions of words usually have 1 to 2 letters underlined, depends on the word. Sometimes the underlined portion will be whispered or not said. Sometimes the only the last letter will be whispered, even if 2 letters are underlined. So like for example, gungwe hu, which means I'm Oneida, gungwe hu is like the end of the pronunciation, but you can either underline the E or the WE, but basically you're really not saying the way. So that's the whispered part of it. Both are still the same word. Both are correct and pronounced. They can be not pronounced the same way or differently, but just know that they're all correct. Okay. So it's not, learning language is not about pronunciation wars. Okay. I'll just say that. Successful language acquisition, we are so far beyond that. And we know that multiple things can exist and be correct at the same time. And so that's just not even, it's not even anything to consider. I would say pronunciation is important, but just know that pronunciation can occur multiple ways. And different speakers are going to have different ways of pronunciation, and different dialects of our language are going to have different levels of pronunciation, and they're all correct. Okay, so like I said, the binary of Western civilization and Western philosophy and Western thought processes have you thinking that it's either one or the other. The binary, it's not true. All of it can exist and coexist and be correct at the same time. Okay, that's my TED Talk about pronunciation. Don't get caught up in that. Okay, so let's move on. So there is a K in the word. So remember, K's make a G sound. Ungwe huwe, ungwe hu, g. You hear that G sound. This is why sound practice is important, so we can develop literacy skills and in learning how to read our language. Okay. So remember, swale, swale. You all remember the A, C, U, and O stems are the pronouns are never used alone. They're always used with the verb. And the same thing, the verbs are never used alone. However, this is a side note, ungwe hu can be used alone. That's like the only word that's a verb that can be used alone. Okay, but like 95% of the time they can't. So just FYI, FYI. So these rules of thumb are like general, but they most of the time, more often than not, that's what they're going to follow. Okay, that's the pattern. So just also root words or verbs are not used alone. Pronouns and root words or verbs are used together. Pronoun, verb, together. That's how they exist. They don't exist separately. We teach them separately so you can have them as a building block to use them together. Okay, so why do we learn them? We want to know how to create words, verb changes, and so we can correctly identify the subject of a word and the meaning of a verb. All right, so this is a review. I'm not going to do the meanings, only the pronouns. You can read the meanings. Meanings are standard. Every verb conjugation we do has like the same meaning chart. It does. So this should be like second nature now to you. Pronouns for the U stem, the subjective side, because remember, these are subjective verbs. We're only using subjective pronouns. The U stem pronouns are gu, zu, lu, yagu, you, nu, snu, nu, gnu, yagnu, diu, ju, lanu, gunu, yagyu. All right. So let's talk about our verb conjugations and practice that pronunciation. So those pronouns that I just talked about, they are prefixes. They're going to go on the beginning of the root verb. So what are those conjugations? Here they are. Ungwe hu, U stem. Remember, it starts with a U, U stem. Here's our U stem pronouns. Means to be Oneida or Native American. Our changes. So the first one, I'm going to go through all the way through. Then I'm going to say it with the whispered ending, and the remaining ones will only be with the whispered ending. So I'm going to say it. I want you to repeat it. This is pronunciation practice. Okay. Gungwe huwe. Now the whispered ending. Gungwe hu. Zungwe hu. Lungwe hu. Yagungwe hu. Yungwe hu. Nungwe hu, snungwe hu, nungwe hu, gunungwe hu, yagnungwe hu, diungwe hu, jungwe hu, lanungwe hu, gunungwe hu, yagyungwe hu. All right. So also remember, when you're watching this video, you can pause it if you need more time and you want to say it more than once. I just go through it. But you can always pause it and practice that more slowly as well. Okay. So let's talk about our meanings here. Gungwe hu means to be Oneida. It's a U stem verb. Gungwe hu means I'm Oneida or native. I tend to lean on Oneida because that's our particular word for us. So, but remember, it can also mean I'm a first person or original person. I'm an original being or original human. So also cool, detailed definition. Zungwe hu, you are Oneida. Lungwe hu, he is Oneida. Yagungwe hu, she is Oneida. Yungwe hu, she or it is Oneida. Nungwehu, me and you, we are Oneida. Snungwehu, you two are Oneida. Nungwehu. Looks like there's a little bit of a typo here. It is 2 males. Might have just been copy and pasted. 2 males. So it is Nungwehu, 2 males, or they are Oneida. Gunungwehu, they're Oneida. Who? The 2 females. That's who they are. Me and someone are Oneida is Yagnungwehu. Diungwehu, all of us are Oneida. Jungwehu, you all are Oneida. Lanungwehu, they're Oneida. Who? 3 or more males or a mixed group. Gunungwehu, they are Oneida or Native American. The 3 or more females. And then the last one, Yagyungwehu. They are Oneida. Me and 2 or more, me and 2 or more others are Oneida. Yagyungwehu. All right, let's go to our next slide here. So closer look at the pronouns. Here's our pronouns: gu, zu, lu, yagu, you, and so on. And the rest of our verb root. So how do those come together? Let's talk about that, okay? So remember our vowel stem rule. The stem pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter of the matching stem root word. That's going to apply to the U stem because that includes the U stem. It's a vowel stem. Remember our last word, it didn't include the C stem. That has its own root. That has its own rule. The rest of this, just be mindful of ending changes later on. Not a big deal right now. Stem pronouns, they got to match the same stem verb or root word. So because this is ungwehu, that's a U stem, you have to use U stem pronouns. You can't use a stem or another stem. It's got to be you, okay? So let's move on. A closer look at how our pronouns function with our root words or verbs. So you will make changes for every single pronoun in the U stem subjective chart with the root of ungwehu. So let's talk about our little fancy conjugation equation. So gu is me in the U stem subjective pronoun. We add that with ungwehu, our word to be Oneida, and we get gungwehu. How does that come together though? Okay. Well, we have our pronoun. Remember the rule here. Here's our rule. The pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter, which is U, in the matching stem root word. Okay, so gu is going to replace this U. Okay, so you just take gu and that replaces that. And that's where we get gungwehu. Does that make sense? Its pronoun replaces the beginning vowel letter. This is for vowel stems, A stem and the U stem, which are the 2 vowel stems we covered today. Okay, so the U in the root is just replaced by the pronoun. The U is replaced by the pronoun. Okay, that's it. Pretty easy. Don't think about it too much. Pretty cut and dry for the most part. I think that's it. Let's just talk about that again. So here's our changes: gungwehu, zungwehu, lungwehu, yagungwehu, yungwehu, nungwehu, snungwehu, nungwehu, gunungwehu, yagnungwehu, diungwehu, jungwehu, lanungwehu, gunungwehu, and yagyungwehu. All right, those are our changes. So we learned 45 new words today, or new verbs. We made 15 different conjugations for the A stem word, atzlun. We made 15 different conjugations for the C stem word, hunji. And we made 15 conjugations for the U stem word, ungwehu. That's a lot, okay? And they're not that hard because this is really one root. And we just changed it based on the pronouns of that stem, okay? So that was it. It's real simple. It seems like a lot, but it's not. It's all based on a pattern. And really, it was just azlun. We just changed it using A stem pronouns. Hunji, C stem word. We just changed it using C stem pronouns. U stem or ungwehu, U stem word or verb, just changed it using U stem pronouns. That's it. Okay. So these were all of the ones we covered for azlun to be white or Caucasian, hunji to be African American or Black, and then we had ungwehu to be Oneida or Native American. All right, so those are our very simple verb conjugations for this section, okay? We only used A, C, and U stem verbs. and this section was called like the 3 races of man. Okay, and we use them because all of these 3 verbs only change subjectively, which means that we only used subjective pronouns. Okay, so pretty easy, pretty simple here. I think that's it. Oh, this is just another way I wanted to show you. Okay, so here was our pronoun chart, and here's our verb conjugation chart for Azlun. Okay, this might be helpful for your learning. I like to present it in different ways, so because different people learn it differently. So here was our A stem subjective pronouns. Here is our conjugations. Okay, you can screenshot if you want to use it. Here's the same thing for our C stem verb, hunji, C stem subjective pronouns. Here's our verb conjugations. Awesome. Okay, you can screenshot this if you need it. It's helpful. So a lot of these charts aren't necessarily in the book. It just presents the chart. The video lesson is the lecture to explain that information. Okay, ongwe hu, same thing here. Here's our U stem pronouns, and here's our U stem verb conjugations or changes, verb changes. Okay, so remember that means to be onaida. So again, here's our handy little chart system. So what I would have you do is practice. I'm not going to do them in the video here, but I'm just presenting the activities to you so you can have an idea of what to do to help you study. There's many other things you can do. This is just an idea. Azlun, to be white or Caucasian, I would make yourself a chart in your notebook. 3 columns, 5 rows, write the first one down. And remember, all you're doing is changing the pronoun, okay? So everything stays the same. That's what you need to know. But writing this is important, even orally saying this. So you can just say all the changes, go through all the changes orally or in your head. But I would practice writing them, know how to do all of that. That's what creates strong proficiency, is doing all of that, okay? So remember, all you're doing is changing the pronoun, which is ga. Everything else stays the same. Everything else after the glottal stays the same. Okay, so it's just zazlun. That's it. It's so easy. Okay, and then it's just we're changing za to the pronoun for him, which is la, and then we're changing the pronoun from la to you, and then it's wa zlun. Okay, so that's real simple. That's what I want you to practice when you do this. But I want you to write out the whole thing, not just the pronoun. I'm just showing you what you're doing. Okay, so that's one activity. Here's our next one. You could do this the same thing for to be African American or Black. Give yourself the first one. Write the first one down. Also write the meaning. It means I'm African American or I'm Black. The next one, remember, we're just changing the pronoun here. It's an S. K. This is a C stem, right? Okay, so we're using C stem pronouns. It's sunji. Everything else stays the same. You're just changing the pronoun from K to whatever your next pronoun is. Okay, so same thing. Even if you don't want to do it in order, just change your pronoun K to, let's say we want to talk about they're Black or African American. Pronoun is ladi in the C stem. Okay, so it's ladi hunji. Okay. Sorry, I'm writing a little slow because I got to use my finger. So Ledi Hunji, they are Black or African American. Remember, all you're doing is changing the pronoun. You can do this for any of them. La Hunji, that's all you're doing. Ye Hunji, write the whole thing out, and so on. That's it. Write the whole chart out. After you get really good at writing the chart out, maybe there's a couple you don't remember, okay? Just leave them blank. Go check your book and say, oh, that was Ni Hunji. Now I know. Just keep it blank or write an X on it. And then the next time you write this chart out, and you're going to remember what that was or become more familiar with it. When you write it, start in order, but then eventually mix it up. And if you're writing it and you become very good at that, just say it. Just orally say it. Okay. I want you to be able to know how to do all of them. Do the same activity with ungwehu. Okay, so again, same approach here. This is a U stem though, so be mindful, U stem pronouns, because it starts with the U. All you're doing is changing the pronoun. So I'm Oneida. If you wanted to say you're Oneida, the pronoun is zu. All you do is change the pronoun. Zungwehu. Zungwehu. Zungwehue. All right. There it is. Zungwehu. And then you just change the pronoun zu to lu. You can say she's onaida, just change your pronoun, yagu, yagungwehu. Write the whole thing out though. I'm just showing you that this is like the gist of it. And so on. Do this for all of them. Okay. Remember, these are subjective pronouns you're using. So gu, zu, lu, yagu, you, nu, snu, nu, gnu, yagnu, diu, ju, lanu, gunu, yagyu, and so on. Okay, so that is our change. After you get better at that, don't even give yourself the first one. I want you to challenge yourself. Just give yourself a blank chart. Do all the changes for Azlun to be white or Caucasian. Do the same thing for Hunji to be Black or African American. Use correctly the correct pronouns of that stem. And then Ungwehu. Okay. So this is just a copy of a blank chart. You could screenshot this if you wanted to and print this if you want, or just write it in your notebook, like if you have a blank note. Okay, so let's just do a couple more activities here. This will be real brief. I'm going to give you one word and I want you to write the meaning of it. Okay. You can also just orally say it too, but I want you to tell me what this means. So Natigandu is a phrase for me. What it means? What does it mean? And so our word is jatzlun. I'm not going to write this. I'm just going to say this. Jatzlun. So we know that it comes from atzlun, which means to be white. Jatzlun. So what does it mean? You all is the pronoun. Okay. I will underline the pronoun though, so you can see it. Whoa, sorry, my bad. Oh, sorry. Okay. Jatzlun. Our pronoun. This helps you if you're orally doing it. Listen for the pronoun. If you're looking at it or writing it, identify the pronoun. Pronoun is ja. Ja in the A stem means you all or all of you. So this whole meaning would mean you are all white. All of you are white. That's what this means. Okay, let's do another one. Goody hunji. Goody hunji. I'll help you with the pronoun. Hunji means to be Black or African American. That is your root. Goody is going to help you identify the meaning. So Naptigandu. What does it mean? Goody hunji. Goody is 3 or more females. 3 or more females, they are Black or African American. That is the meaning. Also, feel free to pause this video if you need more time. I'm just doing this as an activity. Let's do another one. I'm only going to do one of each. So, yagungwe hu. Yagungwe huwe. Natigandu. What does it mean? Yagu is the pronoun. Means her, a younger her. So the whole word, she's onaida, or a younger her, a younger female is onaida. Okay? Let's move on. I'm going to skip ahead here. There is a few others. You can look at them if you want. I'm only going to do one of each, but this is a good activity though. You could take all of the charts, you could print them out and use a chart with all the conjugations in it and cut them up and put them in an envelope and pull one out, and you'll tell the meaning to yourself or figure out what it means and just do them individually. You can do the same with the meanings. Write all the meanings out in English, put them in an envelope, pull one out, and figure out the conjugation or what the word is in Oneida. That's helping with translation skills back and forth. Makes your mind go like multiple ways. It makes it like really flexible, and it's kind of like fosters a growth mindset, and you develop really strong and sharp skills of the language. Okay, so the next one, same thing. We're gonna do a similar activity. Write the meaning or give or orally just say it. Okay, so I'm only gonna do a couple. So I'm going to give you, so Natine Gaig means what is this? I'm going to give you the English because this is like translation activity. So the English phrase is I am white. What is that in Oneida? I will write this one though. So me, remember me is ga in the A stem. You don't have to worry too much about spelling, but try to get as close as you can. So the word or verb conjugation is gatzlun, gatzluni. okay? So when you do English translations, here's your subject, I or me. Here's your verb. All right, let's move on. We'll keep it kind of easy here. Maybe I'll do a few more than 3 though. I am African American. Subject is me. Verb is to be Black or African American. We know that that's a C stem, so it's K for me. And then hunji is the verb, so it's kunji. Kunji. I am Black or African American. Awesome. Okay, let's do another one. I am Oneida or Native American. Here is your subject, which is I or me. Verb is to be Oneida or Native American. I'll write it up here. That's a U stem. Remember, pronoun for me and the U stem is gu. And the rest of our root, gungwe hue. Okay, sorry. Gungwe hu or gungwe hue is the right answer. That is the Oneida translation for I am Oneida. Gungwe hu. Let's do like another few. I just want to do ones that are not the first one. We can sometimes get used to that because we always start from the first one, but I want you to like be able to do other ones. Let's do they are African American, 3 or more males. So they, who is they? It's 3 or more males, African American. Okay, pronoun for 3 or more males in the C stem, because that's a C stem word, is Ludi. So our word is Ludi hunji. Okay, Ludi hunji. That's the correct word. Let's do like 2 more, one of each. Oh, my bad. They are Oneida, 2 females. They are Oneida, 2 females. So who is they? 2 females. Oneida. Remember, our word is ungwehu. 2 females. Pronoun for the U stem is gnu. Gnu. K-N-U. Gnu. And then our root, gunungwe huwe. Gunungwe huwe. That is, they are Oneida, 2 females. Gunungwe hu. And let's do one more. He is white or Caucasian. Okay, so that's got to be azlun. That's our verb. And him, a stem verb. That pronoun is la for him. And then our root, la zlun. He is white. He is white or Caucasian. That's the word. Sorry, this is an S. La zlun. Okay. So that's as far as I'm going to go, I think, with these. There's a few others here. You could pause this and do this on your notebook or orally for more, but you can also make them up too. Remember, I said you could just write them down in a chart, cut them up, put them in an envelope, challenge yourself. So that is our video for the 3 races of man, or our A, C, and U stem subjective verb changes, simple verb changes video lesson. Okay, so Toginik, that is it. Yonko, Nukiwa.